In Southeast Asia, land is far more than a physical eyesight. It's deeply tied to social identity, political power, and economic survival. For generations, communities, especially indigenous and rural groups, have relied on land not just for farming or fishing, but also for maintaining kinship, culture, and spiritual life. However, as government pushed forward with modernization and development projects like plantations, industrial zones, and urban mega projects, land has become highly contested. These projects often become at the expense of the most vulnerable, who are viewed as obstacles to the progress. This is where the conception of exclusion from Hao, Hirsch, and Li become important. Exclusion refers to the process by which people are prevented from exercising, using, or benefiting from land. It can happen through laws, violence, market force, or even ideology, framing people as illegal squatters or outsiders. And crucially, exclusion is not just about losing land, it's about losing rights, recognitions, and identity. So in this essay, we explore how land exclusion plays out in 3 different case studies across Southeast Asia and what these tell us about power, resistance, and justice in land governance today.
Hello, this is Hikari. Now I would like to talk about the main argument of a book chapter, Counter-Exclusion by Hall. Hall mainly argues that counter-exclusion often involves collective mobilization as a form of contest to the opposition groups. Collective mobilization refers to act by a group of people seeking to counter the exclusion that deprives them of their territories and resources, and use their own right to exclude others. There are primarily 3 key powers to exclude: legitimation, force, and market power. Legitimation plays an important role in reclaiming lands as it can draw more allies and it would function as a claim for the right to livelihood, social justice, or territorial belonging. Force could be utilized when protesters are repressed by violence, or even protesters themselves cause violent insurgencies to claim lands. Market power has limited influence in collective mobilization. However, for example, when a large plantation company purchases land without the consent of the neighboring community, it can be a cause of conflict. Vice versa, if some ethnic group possesses its resources and capital to purchase the lands, it can prevent its claimed lands from being deprived. Often the government becomes the target of collective mobilization, even if private companies are the ones trying to evict the local community, because they consider government to be responsible for taking appropriate action to regulate land development. Collective mobilization puts people with the same ethnicity together, but not by class, as their ethnic identity plays a crucial role in uniting them in seeking not only their territorial lands, but also their identity, rights, and recognition. However, we cannot overlook the fact that exclusion is double-edged, meaning that exclusion of a group will create another form of exclusion as well. People want to utilize their power to mobilize collectively and not to be excluded, while their movements cause the exclusion of others. Who should be decided and how it should be distributed is essential, but most importantly for the local communities, collective mobilization is all about justice, rights, and recognition, which they felt ignored by the state or government.
Hello everyone, my name is Wang Hongrui. I'm here to share about anti-exclusion and land struggle. The first part means discuss how to carry out exclusion through law, violence, or the market. Legal tool means the state legalizes the possession of resources through legalization. Violate coercion means the power subjects stigmatize marginalized groups and deprives them of resources through violence. Market penetration means capital-driven resource recognition leads to indirect expulsion. The second part mainly talks about the examples of anti-exclusion. Cultural identity resistance is mentioned in the text to uphold the identity of marginalized groups, Islamic beliefs and ancestral narratives, and to counter the pressure of assimilation. Informed space negotiations involve limited opening of economic exchanges while maintaining boundaries. Continue the traditional system and ration the Ottoman rules system of the colonial period. The third part shows how exclusion is questioned and shaped by power relations, the continuation of colonial heritage, reference to the historical stigmatization, providing legitimacy for places of future generations, state capital islands. The government cooperated with enterprises to occupy land in the name of development, resulting in the displacement of residents.
Hello, I'm Wan Yi. I will talk about the second case, Malaysia New Villages, based on Low's 2021 research. These villages were created during the Malayan emergency in the 1950s. At that time, the British colonial government forcibly relocated over 500,000 people, mostly ethnic Chinese, into fenced and guarded settlements. The official reason was national security, to stop local Chinese communities from supporting communist fighters. But in reality, it was a huge case of state land exclusion. What really striking is that the efforts of this exclusion are still felt today. Many new villages residents still don't have official land titles, even though their families have lived there for generations. The government often treats these villages as temporary, which means people are constantly at risk of eviction, especially when developer wants the land, and most of the time they don't receive fair compensation or legal protection. We can see several types of exclusion here. Legally, they are excluded because they have no formal ownership. In terms of identity, they are often seen as not fully legitimate citizens. From a market perspective, their land is viewed as underused and better suited for urban development. But this isn't just about land, it's about being excluded from negotiation rights and a sense of belonging. For many new villages residents, this exclusion is not just physical, it's deeply emotional and political too. This case shows how decisions made decades ago still shape people's lives today. It also reminds us that exclusion isn't always violent or sudden. It can be slow, silent, and built into systems like law and planning. Thank you.
Hello teacher, I'm Wang Mengmeng. Today, I want to talk about a really important problem. I will use 3 examples from Southeast Asia to show you how building new things and making countries more modern can push native people out of their homes. Let's start with the Orang Laut in Singapore. They are known as the sea people. They used to live by fishing, building boats, and following their old sea traditions. But in the 1980s, Singapore wanted to build factory and other things on blue seeking. So they moved the Orang Laut into apartments. The Orang Laut lost their homes by the sea, and they also lost their way of life and their special culture. The government said it was for their own good, but they didn't really ask the Orang Laut first. They even made the Orang Laut fit into the Malay group, which made the Orang Laut's own culture disappear. But it's not fair for them. Now, let's look at other countries. In Vietnam, the Montgardinet people are losing their land because more and more coffee farms are being built, and the government is moving them to other places. In Indonesia, the Dayak people are so angry that they sometimes fight against new people who come to live there. These new people come after a leader named Suharto left power. And it's all about who gets to stay and who has to go. All these stories have something in common. The native people lose their land because of new laws, because countries want to grow fast, and because of money-making businesses. As a result, their cultures start to fade away. They don't have good jobs, and their communities break apart. Some native groups, like the Orang Laut, just accept what happens. Others try to fight back, either peacefully or by force. This shows how some people have all the power, and others have none. Thank you.
In conclusion, Land exclusion is a complex process influenced by politics, history, and identity. In Southeast Asia, we can see this in three cases. The Orang Lot in Singapore lost their lands and traditional way of life due to the urban planning. Residents in Sichuan in Malaysia were forcibly relocated during a state of emergency and still lack land rights. And in Vietnam, the Montagnons lost their land to market expansion and resettlement plans, facing suppression when they resisted. These cases show that ignoring indigenous land rights leads to exclusion. Governments must recognize these rights, involve affected people, and strengthen legal protections. Inclusive land policy are the solution. Thank you.